Couples would walk out of that movie and argue for hours. I could always tell from male interviews about their personal lives by the way they reacted to the film. Very funny. I knew, oh, he probably cheats.
It's Anne Archer.
Thank you. I'm thrilled to be here.
How are you? How is London treating you?
I love London. I've spent a lot of time here, and I'm always happy here, so I love it.
So you're here for the rehearsals because next month is when the play starts. It's a play that you know well because of Edinburgh, because you developed your skills with the play there.
Yes.
It's a different team, isn't it, behind this production?
Yes, because my husband, who wrote the play, directed it as a workshop in Los Angeles when we were developing it, and then directed it in Edinburgh 2 years ago, in 2014. And we hope to bring it into London, and we always knew that it was time to go the next step. And we have Joe Harmston, wonderful English director, theater director, directing it, and he's created his cast, his production. He's worked closely with my husband as a dramaturge, and the play has evolved and developed beautifully. And we're very excited about finally doing a full production of the show.
I'm very excited to see it. And your husband is Terry Jastrow.
Yes.
I saw a fabulous video online this morning with you sat on a beach looking, it was somewhere glamorous. I'm not sure where it was. Was it back home?
We were in Los Angeles. We were actually out at Santa Monica Beach, which is right where we live.
Yeah.
And chatting away, and Suze, our friend, she shot us, twittering.
Yeah, social media, it's an ongoing job, it's full time.
Okay, so I'm a playwright, and my wife here, Anne Archer, is doing a play this summer in London called The Trial of Jane Fonda. And she is so fallen in love with her director, Joe Harmston. She's actually trying to get me not to come to London. So can I get a little love here on this occasion?
Yeah, he was teasing. Yeah, because when we met with different directors, and when we met with Joe, several years ago, when we were before Edinburgh, we actually met with him, knowing this is what we wanted to do, and we had this great meeting, and he said, well, what do you think? I said, I love him. He's been teasing me about that ever since.
But your husband is the writer of this play.
Yes.
The famous, phrase is never work with family or people that you love. That's not true in your case, because obviously you've got a good combination there.
No, it's not true at all. It's been a pleasure working with Terry, and he also wrote and directed a film called The Squeeze, and I was one of the producers on it. So we've done 2 projects together, and we worked for a very short period of time. He was an actor because he was very famous for years as a television sports producer and director. He's won 7 Emmys, been nominated 20 times, I think.
Amazing.
And all that. So he had that early in his career. Then he became an actor. That's where we met. And we actually used to do scenes together in acting class and stuff like that when we were young. And anyway, so yeah, we're very... And we made a movie together after we got married called Waltz Across Texas that we both... we hired a writer to write it, and then we starred in it together. So
there you go.
Used to working together.
Proving those critics wrong.
Yeah.
That you should never mix business with pleasure.
Yeah.
Tell us about the play, because I'm very intrigued by this. I've read the synopsis. It sounds like it's a play that really delves into Jane's life, the life that a lot of people don't know about as well.
Well, it's more known in America, obviously, than it is here, but she was very much one of the most prominent faces during the anti-war movement against the Vietnam War. And I'm sure everybody knows that, all the youth of America were outraged because the draft existed, and they were being drafted over to Vietnam. They didn't really know necessarily why or what they were fighting for, have a real understanding of it at least. And 90% of the youth of America was against the war. There were protests in the streets. It was a huge anti-war movement. Anyway, she was outspoken, and she unfortunately was photographed. She visited North Vietnam, as over 300 Americans had, but she was photographed sitting on top of an anti-aircraft gun. There's a reason that happened. It all comes out in the play. And she became hated by American soldiers, Vietnam vets, for doing that. And she was actually, in 1988, 15 years after the war, she was going to make this movie with De Niro called Stanley and Iris.
Yeah.
And in Waterbury, Connecticut, that's where they were filming. Well, that's a hotbed of war vets that live there, and they started boycotting her making the film there because of her activities during the Vietnam War. And they burned her in effigy. I mean, it was a big deal. And she said, I want to meet with them. So she met alone with 26 vets in a church meeting room in Waterbury, Connecticut. And it was a 4-hour meeting. It was very cathartic. There were a lot of tears. She told her story of how she became involved in the whole Vietnam issue, what she actually did when she was in North Vietnam. And they told their stories of what had happened to them and why they hated her for what she did and why they felt like she was a traitor. And the play, it's like 12 Angry Men. I mean, you really learn this story. You hear both sides, and the audience gets to make up its mind. And some will feel, no, the vets are right, and some will feel Jane was right, and
Sure.
And that's how it should be.
A story of a very powerful woman in many respects.
Yes, well, she had guts, and she really researched any subject. She's a very intelligent woman. She really cared deeply. She researched it deeply. I mean, she traveled all over the country talking to vets long before she ever went to North Vietnam, trying to hear their stories and learning and understanding more about it. But we forget that 57,000 American soldiers died in Vietnam, and 3 million Vietnamese. So, and it was a draft. It wasn't like young men who wanted to go fight war. I mean, there were all kinds of young men who were just, one minute they had one life, and all of a sudden they were in the jungle, in Asia, not really knowing why they were there. So
she was a trailblazer. Do you have a trailblazer figure that inspired you when you started acting?
Well, as an artist, there were great actresses when I was young whose careers interested me tremendously. I think probably Katharine Hepburn was probably one.
Yeah.
And then, even though she's my contemporary, my idol has always been Meryl Streep, as I'm sure it is for most.
She's
American
incredible. Very
actresses.
diverse actress too.
That's why. I
Yeah.
mean, she's friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
And in politics, probably not. I'm a big Hillary Clinton supporter because I think she's smart and knows her subject well and experienced and anyway, I think she's an amazing lady.
And Jane Fonda, talking of amazing women, obviously with the Vietnam story you just touched on and her work throughout the 60s, 70s and 80s, Barbarella. But have you seen her recently in Grace and Frankie, the series that she
I've
did?
seen it a couple times, yeah, she's very funny.
She's amazing in that and still looks incredible too.
It's lovely.
It's funny, when I heard that you were going to play the role, I thought there was no one better to play the role. I just thought it was such a similarity, such a likeness, for many reasons, not just the looks. So I think it's a good casting job.
Thank you.
I want to talk about the Graduate, if you don't mind, because obviously that was a really big part of your life when you came to London to perform in the West End. How do you look back on that time? Because I know so many friends that went to see you in that, and they said it was just something that still remains something that they think about, and it was a role that was really important for you, and it was a great role for you too.
Yeah, I love doing The Graduate. I had great fun. I think it was a very good production, and I was scared to death in the beginning because of the nudity. I thought, oh my God.
What a challenge.
Yes, I mean, I did work out every day, and I never ate the wrong thing. As soon as the play was over, I did. But during the play, oh my God, just the thought of it had me in a panic. But I had a lot of fun. It was a great part for me, a perfect part for me, and it was a happy experience. Loved being in London. Loved being at the Gielgud Theatre, for God's sake.
Yeah.
What a wonderful theatre.
Beautiful
that is.
theatre.
And a beautiful cast and lovely people. And it was a really great experience.
And Fatal Attraction, obviously one of the lightning bolts from the 80s in terms of cinema. I remember going to see it at the cinema and just shaking after when I came out. It really made me think about stuff as well. And of course, in the 80s, the whole stigma around HIV and AIDS and the whole sexual disease problems that were going on, not just in the gay community, but in the straight community as well. It was something that really made people think, I think, that movie.
Yeah, that's interesting you say that. I've forgotten that. I remember at the time we were filming, AIDS was so scary, and to have sex outside of marriage just seemed like the cruelest thing you could do to your partner. Because we have certain drugs that control it today, it's not up front and center like it was, and I'd forgotten that that was also a reason why it was such a big issue back then.
Yeah, I watch it now and it still has that impact.
Yeah.
Years down the line, it still
Yeah.
makes me think, and it really shakes me to the core.
Well, also, I think the big thing then, too, is he seemed to be in such a happy marriage.
Yeah.
And then he would do this, and it was so casual, and then, of course, she became pregnant. And so couples would walk out of that movie and argue for hours. You know, men saying, don't you think the punishment was a little severe?
Yeah.
And the woman saying, I don't know about it. And I used to laugh because I would say I could always tell from male interviews about their personal lives by the way they reacted to the film. Very funny. I knew, he probably cheats.
And you were nominated for Best Supporting Actress at the
Right,
Academies.
right, yeah.
And I just think it's a very strange category, the supporting actor or actress category, because I'm just thinking more recently with Alicia Vikander, who was in The Danish Girl, and she won the Best Supporting Actress. And I just think it's a very strange category because I think those actors are often a major part of the movie. I think supporting is...
Yeah, it's
a bit unfair.
It's always been a bit of a debate in the Academy because it seems a little unfair when someone who gives a beautiful supporting role performance loses out because there's another performance was really a starring role, and it's kind of up to how the film company promotes it in a way. Do they promote this artist to get a nomination as a supporting actor or as a lead actress? So I know it's always been a big debate. And
Yeah.
some years it's perfect, some years it's not so
Yeah,
perfect.
I guess so. And I guess everything changes, everything evolves, so it
Yeah,
might
yeah.
change in the future.
Yes, that's right.
What are your views on gun laws and where it stands
I think it's
currently?
insane that the National Rifle Association has the power it has over our country. There is absolutely no excuse for having assault rifles available to the public. There is not one logical reason to do that. And people are dying in our country regularly because of our gun laws, and we need to do something about it. And the lobbying power they have is almost criminal because it prevents good, smart, fair, just laws from being put in place in our country. And I don't understand it. And I think the women in our country should speak out strongly about it because, unfortunately, I don't know who else is going to fight against it.
Yeah, people have power, don't they?
Yes, you talk about demonstrations. At this point, there should be millions demonstrating in Washington, D.C. against the gun laws.
We've seen a lot of positivity to come from terrible events like this. In particular, Monday we had the vigil in Soho, which was just overwhelming. I like to remain positive and keep thinking that there's a lot of love out there, but obviously with the current laws, it's enabling people, like you say, to get away with crimes like this.
No,
It's just terrible.
it's a sad thing. People lay it on the Second Amendment as an excuse, and
Yeah.
That is not an excuse for murdering people. I'm sorry.
I absolutely agree. On a lighter note, the Trial of Jane Fonda starting on the 13th of July here at the Park
Yes,
Theatre.
yes.
And it's a pleasure to meet you today, and I wish you all the best with the play. I can't wait to see it as well.
Thank you very much. And we play through the 20th of August, so come see us.
A few
You'll
weeks
love
to
it.
check it out. Good to see you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.